Hey guys, we'll probably put this video on the Nature and Environment in Japan playlist, but we might put it on the how-to playlist as well, because this might be useful information for people who are coming to visit Japan. Just a bit of a heads up on this particular topic, because it can be surprising to some people. Japan has a reputation for being very good as far as recycling is concerned. We've showed you before how much trouble we have to go to here to recycle everything. We have to divide everything up into lots of categories, and everything has to be processed separately. And so mottainai is Japanese for wasteful or wastage or waste, and mottainai is a common word that people use here as an awareness of waste. So wasting water or wasting paper or wasting anything. Mottainai. So it's a big thing about the wasting thing. So, having said that, it can be surprising to some people exactly how much paper gets wasted here. It really is quite incredible. What triggered this video is, I mean, we see this every day, but just came from the post office, and we can take our bills, our electricity bills and our tax bills and all sorts of bills, we can take them to the post office, and the post office just scans the barcode with a scanner, and it comes up on the cash register how much it is, and you can pay them. You can also do it at convenience stores as well, which is really good. But interestingly, when you do it at the post office, you then have to fill out a form, and it's actually an A4 piece of paper, so it's a big piece of paper, but you only need to write your name and your phone number on it. That's all I sort of need. But it doesn't seem to serve any purpose. So you hand them the bill, they swipe the barcode, then they give you the piece of paper, and you have to write your name and address, name and phone number on the piece of paper. Then they stamp the bill that you've given them to show that you've paid it, and they give you a receipt. So that extra piece of paper, the system obviously records that you've paid the bill and you've given them the money. So there doesn't seem to be any reason at all for the piece of paper, and that happens a lot here. The other thing on receipts is, and we mentioned this in a previous video, is that you get a receipt for everything here. You know, in some countries now, just to try and sort of save paper, in some countries now people will ask you if you want a receipt, don't they? So at the supermarket or wherever you're buying something from, sometimes they say, would you like a receipt? And if you say yes, they hit the receipt button and it prints out a receipt and they hand you a receipt, which is a good strategy because it means that the only people that get receipts are the ones who want one. However, in Japan, you automatically get given a receipt for everything. So if you go into a convenience store and buy, 20-cent chocolate and put it on the counter, they'll give you a receipt for it. And they'll put a little sticker on it to show that you've paid for it as well as the receipt. And it's automatic. It doesn't matter how cheap the thing is that you're buying, or you go and buy 1 cup of coffee in there, they'll give you a receipt for it. Anything you buy here, you get a receipt automatically. And then usually what they have is, next to the cash register, is they have a little bin. So 90% of people, when they get their change and their receipt, take the receipt out of their hand and drop it in the little bin that's right in front of the cash register. Some people, it depends on the staff or the policy of the store, but sometimes they actually hand you the coin and then offer you the receipt, and if you don't take it, they drop it in the little bin. But either way, everything that you buy, which means if you go out in the morning and you go to a restaurant for lunch, and you go shopping in the afternoon, every shop you go to, every restaurant you go to, every car park you park in, every paid car park you park in, anytime you spend any money at all, you'll get a receipt. Which means if you have a particularly busy day and you keep all your receipts, you come home at the end of the day with a pocket full of receipts, and there's 127 million people here who are doing the same thing, which is an incredible amount of paper just on all the receipts. And then the systems, it seems that obviously the computerized systems here are as advanced as anywhere else in the world. So when it comes to places like City Hall and that sort of thing, they have all the computerized systems, but they still insist on paper. And quite often it doesn't seem to be any reason for it, and the hospitals, there's so many examples coming to mind straight away. I'll do the hospital one, that's an interesting one. Going to the hospital, and they've got an amazing computerized system where if you've been to that hospital before, you'll have a card from that hospital, and when you walk into the entrance, you put the card into the machine, and there's a whole heap of questions if you're there because you've made an appointment or you have made an appointment, or a whole heap of questions, and then it prints you out a piece of paper, and then you go to the reception area, and then they give you another piece of paper to write on what's happening today, and then by the time you finish, by the time you've gone into the hospital, and everything's computerized, so that card that you put in, that computer, and the computer at the reception counter, and the computer in front of the doctor are all connected, so that they all can see what's going on, and yet there's always the piece of paper as well, which doesn't seem to serve any purpose. And the reason that we know that they don't seem to serve any purpose is we end up taking them home, which means if they were important pieces of paper, they'd still be at the hospital, wouldn't they? But you just get the piece of paper that you filled out to say why you're there today, and you get the piece of paper that confirms that where you've got to go in the hospital, which building or which room, and then you get another piece of paper that, you know, all these different pieces of paper. And then of course at the end you have to have a receipt, don't you? Because you get a receipt because you've paid $15 or something for your consultation, which is all it is usually, the maximum $15 for a consultation. But the paper, you know. And then another one, we might have mentioned on the talking about cars once, but every car in Japan, except for the ones with the yellow number plates, so the ones that you see with the yellow number plates are K cars, they're below a certain engine capacity. So if you see a yellow number plate, it's a K car. They don't count to what I'm about to tell you. But every other car, every other truck that you see in Japan has to have a piece of paper that says where it's parked. Now this isn't about registration or anything. That's another thing. Shark N is a separate issue with separate paper. This is just purely a piece of paper that the police have. Actually, it's two pieces of paper that the police have that shows where your car is kept parked. Now that information is also on the Shark N papers, which is a separate thing, and in the Shark N computer, which is a separate issue. But this is a piece of paper specifically to show where your car is parked. So when you go to buy a car in Japan, if we walk into a car yard up here, there's a Toyota dealer up here. If we walk in there, so I want to buy that Toyota, please, here's the cash. First thing we have to do is give them a piece of paper stamped by the local police station to confirm that we have a car space to keep that car in. So to do that, to achieve that, we need to make a map of the car park. So if we're in an apartment building, for example, and there's a bunch of car parks in there, we have to draw a map of that car park and then mark which of those car park spots is for us, and fill out the form with all the information, draw the map, and then we need to draw a second map on a second piece of paper to show where that car park is in relation to an identifiable landmark. So if there's a main road nearby with a convenience store on it, or a, you know, temple down the street or something, we need to draw a map from that well-known landmark to where our car park is and show clearly where the car park is. And then we take that to the police station, and the policeman comes out and has a look at the piece of paper, and then goes and has a look at the parking lot and looks at the lot and looks where the parking's supposed to be. There better not be a car parked in there either, or the game's over, right? So, and he checks and makes sure, yes, there's a vacant lot, okay, yes, that's an appropriate place to park a car, and then he takes it back to the police station, he stamps it, and he gives it to you. And then you can go to the car dealer and show them, here it is, I've got a place to park the car, then they can sell you the car. So that means that every car that you see in Japan, I mean, how many cars are there in Japan, or small trucks or whatever, that you see, has at least two pieces of paper that are kept somewhere in the police station for no apparent reason, because the police, it's the same as any other country, the police can use a computer. If they see your car registration number plate, they can search that on their computer and find out where the car lives, where you live. So it doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't achieve anything. When we've actually asked people what it's for, what that system's for, they've told us that it's to stop people parking illegally. Which, this country's the same as any other country. If you park illegally, police come along and give you a parking ticket. That's what stops you parking illegally. But it's just the way it works. It's sort of like everything's been computerized, and the computer systems here are great like they are anywhere else. But it seems that the paper systems have been kept as well. So over the years, as they've added Bosozoku. Two Bosozoku just went past. So over the years, as they've added the computer systems, brought in the computer systems for different things, they've kept the paper systems that go with them, which is just incredible. When, you know, we have to have pieces of paper registered at City Hall for all sorts of things, and every time we do anything, you know, half a dozen pages of paper go to City Hall, which when you stop to think about how many people live in your city, you know, the nearest big city to here, there's 18 million people, you know. Incredible. Tokyo's got 20-something million people living in it, and every one of those people has a number of pieces of paper at City Hall and a number of pieces of paper at the police station. And, you know, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So when you live here, it's just incredible. You're forever filling out pieces of paper. Another one just came to mind. When you buy a house, it varies from country to country, of course, but in Australia, when you buy a house, the contract is a A4 size, open it up, and there's writing on 4 sides. So it's basically 4 A4 pieces of paper is a contract to buy a house in Australia. So different countries have different systems, of course. And a couple of phrases in there just refer to, you know, that the contract will be as per the laws of this state, you know. In Japan, the contract when you sign a house actually includes all the laws related to buying a house and relating to land in Japan, which means that when you buy a house, the contract is like a book. And the front couple of pages, you know, the information about you and the seller and the buyer and the house itself all goes in the first couple of pages, and then the rest of it is like a book because it's got all the property law in it, you know, and the real estate guys will actually read all of it to you, page after page after page, because that's the thing to do. So it's really interesting. It's I mean, that's an incredible amount of paper, right? So every time someone buys or sells a house, so every time someone buys or sells a house, every time someone moves house. So, you know, if you rent an apartment and then you leave it and you rent another apartment, you've got all the leasing papers that go with that, and all the utilities, so electricity and gas and all those utilities too. Those guys love their paper as well. Then you've got to go do your police paper for your car. Every time you move house, you got to do the police paper for the car. The utilities one's an interesting one. They come out every month. Every month, the gas reader, the meter reader for the gas, the meter reader for the water, and the meter reader for the electricity, 3 different people, come to your house every month and read the meters, and then they have a little electronic thing that they put the numbers into, and it prints a piece of paper that shows the readings, and then they put that piece of paper in your letterbox. But then, of course, they then feed that information back into the computer, and then a few days later, a letter turns up, a bill turns up with the bill for the utility, with extra pieces of paper in there as well. Of course, there's always extra information in there as well, so that might be 5 or 6 pieces of paper. So the first piece of paper they leave doesn't seem to do anything. It just gives you the numbers that you're going to get again in about a few days' time when the bill comes, and then you get 5 or 6 pieces of paper with the bill. And each of those utilities has 5 or 6 pieces of paper. So it's just incredible. It's just incredible. And where this is reflected is, as we've shown on a previous video, we have to process all our rubbish here. We can't just throw all our rubbish in together. We have to separate paper and cardboard and, you know, different PET bottles, and, you know, all the different types of rubbish have to be separated, which means we are really aware of how much paper we throw away. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So, yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, we're just making this because it's an interesting thing. It's surprising to some people that will visit Japan how much paper is involved. You know, how much paper is involved. It's incredible. If you come here for a holiday and travel around, the end of every day, your pockets are going to be full of paper. Because everywhere you go, you're given pieces of paper. And there's others that we haven't mentioned as well. You know, you go visit something like a castle, they're going to give you a brochure when you walk in. They're going to give you a ticket. They're going to give you something else. They're going to give you something else. You know, you'll go home with pockets full of paper and throw most of it away, of course. So it's just what it is. So it's a bit of a heads up to people that are coming to Japan to be aware of it, and it's just a bit of a sort of a curiosity for other people. Because it's surprising, and quite often it seems to serve no purpose. Like that utilities paper, it's like you see it, it's got all the numbers on it, and of course we throw it away because it's not a bill, it's just telling us all the numbers on the meter. So okay, there's the meter reading, so we throw it away, and then a couple of days later the bill comes and it's got all the same numbers on it anyway. And a lot of it's like that. A lot of the forms, as you're filling them out, you're thinking, what's the point of this? You know, those hospital ones are like that. You seem to be filling out all these forms, and that computer, you use the computer system with your card, and it prints you a piece of paper and tells you what room to go to. And then at the end of the day, when you leave the hospital and go home, you've got all these bits of paper, and you look at them and think, do I need to keep any of these? Well, no. Okay. So there's loads of others, no doubt there's a whole heap of really good ones that we've forgotten about, but you'll see, if you come here, you'll see it's just everywhere. It's just the paper and the paper and the paper and more paper. It's just everywhere. Hard to understand why. It's sort of, there's sort of also an element to it of that physical thing. It seems that people feel better when they've got that physical piece of paper. It sort of makes the transaction seem more proper, perhaps, particularly the receipt thing. The receipt thing's really important to people here. You know, that always there has to be the receipt, you know, and which, you know, if you bought a cup of coffee and you've given them the money and then you walk out the door with the cup of coffee, you sort of got your receipt. The coffee's the receipt, isn't it? You know, you know you've got what you paid for because it's in your hand. And even then, just buy the coffee. What they'll do is, because it's not going in one of their bags, anything that doesn't go into a bag gets a sticker put on it to say that you've paid for it. So they put a little sticker on the coffee to say that you've paid for it, and they give you a receipt for it as well. So frequently the little pieces of paper that come from everything just don't seem to have a purpose. So it's a mystery. It's very odd in the country where mottainai, where waste is a real big topic. You know, people here talk about mottainai all the time. If you're washing your hands and you leave the tap on, walk away, leave the tap on, or, you know, anything like that, people really get onto it. Mottainai, mottainai. You know, the rice fields, occasionally a rice field here will overflow. The farmer leaves the big tap on for too long and the rice field will fill up with water and start to overflow, you know, and you're driving along in the car with people, oh, mottainai. You know, it's a waste, So, you know, in the country where waste is considered to be a really bad thing, nobody seems to consider that, you know, that mountain of paper we're throwing away, each of us is throwing away every week, is, you know, and again, it's hard to avoid it because you can't say no paper for me, please, because the receipt's printed as soon as they take your money. And if you say, I don't want a receipt, thank you, they still print it and then they just put it in the rubbish. So if you don't want to contribute to this mountain of waste paper, there's no real way around it. Even if you've got things like, we can do online payment of our bills and things here, and automatic payment, things like that, but they still insist on sending you the paper. The paper still comes in the letterbox, even if you've paid online. So you can't really opt out of it. And then a lot of the systems are totally reliant on you filling out a form. So quite often when you go to do something, you know, you go to City Hall or you go to the police station or you want to do something like that, usually first step here, fill out this form please. Post office in particular, everything at the post office is electronic and computerised, but you can't do anything at the post office without filling out a form. They're huge on their forms. You know, they try and make you, for some strange reason, when you send a parcel overseas here, they want you to make an invoice. And we always refuse to do it because it's an invoice, you know, and they want you to do an invoice. You do an invoice. No, it's not business. It's a, you know, it's a gift. No, you got to do an invoice. And then we explain to them that, you know, in English, invoice, because they have the word invoice written on it. So we tell them that, you know, invoice is okanjo in Japanese, and, you know, so we don't need one because we're not selling. Oh, okay. You know, but it's just this automatic use of all the paper. So anyway, just another one of those little contradictions or surprising things that you come across when you're in Japan. Hope somebody found that mildly interesting in some small way. More videos coming soon.